What if the person you're ordered to salute ends up being the one you fall in love with? In today's story, we take you deep into a world where strict rules and unspoken codes govern everything. A remote military base, hidden in the shadows of honor, discipline, and duty. But underneath all of that, a connection so powerful it could cost two men everything. You'll meet Alex, a young recruit fresh out of training, eager to serve but carrying a truth he's been forced to hide. And then there's Commander James, decorated, respected, untouchable. Their first meeting is just another military formality, or so it seems. But what happens when subtle glances turn into silent confessions? When every drill, every order, and every salute hides something deeper? In this story, we're breaking more than just military protocol, we're breaking the rules of fear, silence, and shame. As we follow Alex and James, you'll learn how love tries to survive in one of the most forbidden places. We'll reveal hidden truths about life inside the military, rules most civilians don't even know exist, and the emotional toll those rules can take. So stay with us till the end, because what starts with a salute will lead to sacrifice, defiance, and a decision that changes two lives forever. Welcome to our channel. If you love stories that dive deep into the human heart and challenge the boundaries of love and duty, you're in the right place. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Your support helps us keep telling stories that matter. Alex's days on base blurred together in a series of grueling drills and late-night training sessions. The tension in the air never let up, a constant reminder that everyone here had a role to play and no one was allowed to stray from it. Each morning began with the sound of a sharp whistle, and each evening ended with the hum of exhaustion, the weight of the day's tasks lingering in their bones. But in the midst of all this, there was Commander James, a figure who stood apart from the rest. Respected, feared, and yet, to Alex, strangely magnetic. The first few weeks had been just another test of his resolve. His focus remained on his duties, his purpose, to serve, to prove himself. But James was always there, watching, commanding, and with every passing day, something in Alex began to shift. It wasn't just the way James's voice commanded attention, it was the way his presence filled the room, the way he seemed to carry the weight of the world without breaking under its pressure. He was everything Alex had admired about leadership: confident, unwavering, a natural authority. At first, Alex told himself it was just respect, just admiration for a man who had earned his place. But every glance lingered a little too long, every casual word exchanged held more weight than it should have. He found himself wondering how it would feel to be the one James turned to when no one else was watching, to be more than just another soldier under his command. One evening, after an especially grueling training session, Alex found himself in the mess hall, a place where soldiers gathered to wind down after a long day. It was supposed to be a quiet moment, just a chance to grab a quick meal before heading to bed. But James appeared, his usual calm demeanor now replaced with a hint of something else, something softer. He walked up to Alex, offering him a nod before taking a seat across from him. For a moment, neither of them said anything. The sounds of chatter and clinking silverware filled the space between them, but all Alex could focus on was the man sitting across from him. He could feel his heart race, the tension in the air thickening as if it could suffocate him. James caught his eye and gave a small, almost imperceptible smile. It was brief, but it sent a jolt through Alex, a surge of emotions that he tried to push down immediately. This wasn't right. He knew better than to entertain thoughts like these, especially not with someone in James's position. So, James began, his voice low, almost casual. "How are you adjusting to life here? I know it's not easy at first." Alex swallowed hard, trying to sound as professional as possible. It's tough. But I'm managing. I'll get there." James nodded, a look of understanding passing across his features. "You will. It's just about pushing through those first few months. The rest becomes second nature." There was a long pause, and Alex caught himself stealing a glance at James, the way his eyes seemed to hold a quiet strength. Something about the moment felt charged, like the air itself was holding its breath. "You're a good soldier, Alex," James added, his tone softening just a bit. "I can see that. I've been watching you." Alex's heart skipped a beat. "You've been watching me?" he asked, his voice betraying his shock. He quickly tried to mask it with a smile, but it felt awkward, forced. James met his gaze for a moment, the intensity of it almost overwhelming. "You stand out. You're focused. You don't give up easily." Alex didn't know how to respond. His thoughts raced, his mind struggling to find the right words to say, to maintain the distance that was expected of him. But all he could do was nod, his throat suddenly dry. The conversation shifted back to the mundane after that, the kind of small talk that soldiers had to make in order to keep things professional, to keep any deeper emotions buried. But as they spoke, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that something unspoken was passing between them. There were moments when their eyes met, just a little too long, and Alex could see the same internal battle reflected in James's gaze. The silence between them was heavy, but neither of them said anything more about it. As they finished their meal, James stood up, clapping Alex on the shoulder with a firmness that sent a shiver down his spine. "Keep up the good work, Alex. You're going places." Alex watched him walk away, his heart still pounding, his mind racing with thoughts he couldn't yet fully understand. All he knew was that this connection, whatever it was growing stronger with each passing day. And it scared him. Because in this place, with these rules, the consequences of breaking them could be life-altering. Yet no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't deny the way James's presence made him feel. It was becoming impossible to keep his emotions in check, to pretend that nothing was changing. And as much as he tried to focus on his duties, to bury his feelings beneath the weight of military life, there was a part of him that knew, this was just the beginning. The days following that conversation felt like they dragged on endlessly, each one a blur of physical exhaustion and mental strain. But no matter how hard Alex tried to keep his focus on the tasks at hand, his thoughts kept drifting back to James. The feeling of his touch on his shoulder, the warmth of his words, lingered in Alex's mind, making it harder to concentrate. It wasn't just the late-night meals anymore. It was the quiet moments between drills, the small exchanges that seemed innocent enough at first but carried more weight than they should have. Each glance, each casual conversation felt charged with something deeper. Alex tried to push it away, reminding himself that this was a military base, and here, emotions could be deadly distractions. He couldn't afford to let anything distract him. Not now, not when he was so close to proving himself, to earning the respect he wanted. But that's the thing about attraction, isn't it? You can try to ignore it, deny it, bury it under layers of duty and responsibility. But no matter how hard you fight it, it has a way of creeping up on you when you least expect it. One evening, after a long day of training, Alex found himself standing in the quiet hallway of the barracks, looking out the small window at the star-filled sky. He wasn't sure what he was doing there, maybe just looking for a moment of peace, away from the chaos of his thoughts. His mind was racing again, but this time, it wasn't just about his place here or his future. It was about James. He was lost in his thoughts when he heard footsteps approaching, steady and deliberate. He didn't need to turn around to know who it was. "Alex," James's voice broke through the silence, low and calm as always. "You've been working hard. You're making progress." Alex's heart skipped a beat. He hadn't realized how badly he'd been waiting for those words, how much he needed to hear that approval. But he didn't turn to face James just yet. "Thanks, sir," he replied, his voice betraying a slight tension. He could feel the weight of the moment, the way everything between them felt different, like something was about to shift. James didn't move either. The space between them was small, but it felt like a world apart. The air felt thick, heavier than usual. Finally, Alex turned to face him, meeting his eyes, and there it was again, that silent understanding, that tension that had been building between them for weeks. "You've been on my mind, Alex," James said quietly, his gaze never leaving Alex's. "I know what's happening here. I know what we're both feeling." The words hit Alex like a punch to the gut. He opened his mouth to speak, but nothing came out. His throat was dry, his heart pounding in his chest. He tried to think of something, anything to say, but he couldn't. Everything he thought of seemed foolish, too weak to explain what was really happening. "I don't want to make this harder on you," James continued, stepping a little closer, his voice softer now. "But I can't keep pretending that nothing's going on between us. The way I feel, it's not something I can just ignore." Alex's chest tightened. He wanted to say something, to speak his mind, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, all he could do was look at James, his emotions raw and exposed. His heart was racing, his hands trembling, but it wasn't fear. It was something else, something deeper. "You don't have to say anything, Alex," James said, his voice almost a whisper now. I just need you to know I'm not going anywhere. I'm not giving up on this." In that moment, everything inside Alex shifted. All the doubts, all the fears about what this could mean, they seemed to fade away. For the first time since they'd met, Alex felt like he wasn't the only one struggling with this impossible connection. It was there, in James's eyes, in the way he spoke, in the unspoken promises that seemed to hang in the air between them. Alex finally found his voice, his words coming out in a rush, as if he couldn't hold them back any longer. "I don't know what to do with this," he admitted, his voice shaking with the rawness of the truth. "I don't know what this means for me, for us, but I can't just ignore it either." James took a slow step forward, closing the gap between them. "We don't have to figure it out all at once," he said softly. "We take it one step at a time. But I need you to trust me." Alex looked up at him, and for the first time, he saw something in James's eyes that made him believe this wasn't just some fleeting moment. This was real. And it was terrifying. The air between them felt electric now, charged with 1,000 unspoken words. Alex's heart raced as he struggled with the weight of it all. He had never imagined a life like this, one where love and duty collided so violently, where every decision could alter the course of his future. But in that moment, as James reached out, his hand brushing Alex's arm in a way that was both tentative and sure, Alex knew he was already too far in. The world around them seemed to disappear, leaving only the two of them standing on the edge of something neither of them fully understood. "I don't know where this is going," Alex said softly, his voice steadying as he finally allowed himself to acknowledge the truth. "But I'm not walking away from this." James gave him a small, almost imperceptible smile, his eyes softening. "Neither am I." And with that, everything changed. The barriers, the rules, the fear of what might happen if anyone found out, all of it faded into the background. There was only the two of them, standing together in the quiet, knowing that they had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. The days that followed were filled with a strange mix of anticipation and dread. Alex couldn't shake the feeling that everything was shifting beneath his feet, like the ground he stood on was no longer solid, but shifting, unpredictable. Every time he saw James, his heart would race. It wasn't just the power of attraction anymore, it was something deeper. A bond, unspoken but undeniable. Their secret wasn't just about their feelings anymore. It had become something more dangerous. A secret that could ruin everything. Despite their attempts to remain professional, the tension was becoming impossible to ignore. In every interaction, every glance, there was a charge in the air that neither of them could escape. What had once been casual conversations and brief exchanges now felt like stolen moments, every word holding a weight that neither of them had expected. They were careful, always aware of the consequences of their actions. But the fear of being caught wasn't enough to push their feelings away. One afternoon, during a routine inspection of the barracks, Alex saw something he hadn't expected. The whispers started quietly, a few soldiers exchanging glances and quiet words. It wasn't long before it became clear, the rumors had begun. It wasn't specific yet, not enough to name names, but there were whispers about Alex and Commander James, about their close relationship, the moments where they seemed to linger just a bit too long, the way they seemed to exchange a look when no one was paying attention. Alex tried to ignore it at first. Rumors were common in any military unit, and they usually didn't amount to anything. But there was something about the way people were looking at him now, as if they knew something he hadn't even fully acknowledged yet. It made him uneasy. He couldn't just pretend everything was normal anymore. He couldn't keep pushing down what he felt, not when the whole world around him seemed to be waiting for something to break. The whispers grew louder, until even the officers who had always treated him with a cool professionalism now gave him wary looks. And then, one afternoon, it happened. James called him into his office. It wasn't unusual. James regularly checked in with his soldiers, offering feedback, keeping everything in order. But there was something different about this meeting. The moment Alex stepped into the room, he felt a sense of dread settle over him. James was sitting behind his desk, his expression unreadable, and for the first time since they'd met, Alex could see a trace of something darker in his eyes. "Sit down, Alex," James said, his voice steady but not without an edge. There was no warmth in it, no reassurance. Just cold authority. Alex hesitated for a moment before sitting down across from him. His hands clasped tightly together in his lap. His throat felt dry, his heart racing. He already knew what this was about. The rumors. They'd reached James. It was only a matter of time before they did. I've been hearing things, James began, his tone clipped. Things that concern me. I'm sure you've noticed the way people have been looking at you. The way things have changed around here. Alex swallowed, trying to steady himself. He'd been prepared for this moment, but now that it was here, the reality felt much worse than he had imagined. Yes, sir, he said quietly, his voice betraying the nervousness he was trying to hide. I've noticed. James leaned forward, his gaze fixed on Alex with an intensity that made his stomach twist. This needs to stop. Now. His voice was sharp, like a command, and for a brief moment, Alex thought he saw something flicker in James's eyes, something that wasn't just authority, but something more personal. I understand, sir, Alex said, forcing himself to meet James's gaze. I'll do whatever it takes to keep it under control. I don't want to cause trouble. James's eyes softened just slightly, but there was still a hardness to his expression, as if he were struggling with his own internal conflict. You don't understand, Alex. This isn't just about control. This is about protecting both of us. If this gets out, if people find out about us, it won't just ruin your career, it'll ruin mine too. You'll be jeopardizing everything we've worked for. Alex nodded, his heart sinking further with every word. I know. I don't want to ruin anything, sir. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. James sighed, rubbing a hand across his face. I know you didn't. But the truth is, we've crossed a line. And it's too dangerous to keep pretending it doesn't matter. We can't keep acting like nothing is happening between us. People are already starting to talk. The weight of those words hit Alex like a ton of bricks. He'd known this day would come, but hearing it from James made it all feel real. There was no turning back now. I don't know what to do, Alex said, his voice barely a whisper. I can't just ignore what I'm feeling. And I don't think you can either. For a moment, there was silence. James didn't speak right away. Instead, he looked at Alex, his eyes dark with a mix of regret and something else, something deeper that Alex couldn't quite place. Finally, James stood up from his desk, pacing for a moment before turning back to face him. We have two choices, James said, his voice low and deliberate. We either cut this off now, for both our sakes, or we face the consequences together. But I won't let you risk everything for something that can't be. Not here, not in this place. Alex felt the weight of James's words, and for the first time, he realized just how much of a gamble everything had become. They were both standing on the edge, with nothing below them but uncertainty. He couldn't deny what he felt for James. It was too strong, too real. But he also understood the gravity of the situation. If they didn't put an end to this now, everything they'd worked for, their careers, their lives, could come crashing down around them. I don't want to lose you, Alex admitted, his voice raw. But I don't want to lose everything either. James nodded, his expression unreadable. We'll figure this out, Alex. But no matter what, we have to stay careful. We have to stay hidden. It was a promise, a fragile one, but in that moment, it felt like the only thing they could hold on to. The weight of their conversation lingered in Alex's mind long after he left James's office. Every step he took felt heavy, as if the ground itself was pressing back against him. The rest of the evening passed in a blur, and Alex couldn't shake the tension that had settled deep in his chest. He couldn't even find the strength to focus on the usual duties. Every task felt like an insurmountable hurdle. His mind kept returning to James, to their secret, to the choice they had made to keep it hidden. He knew what they were doing was dangerous. But every moment spent with James, even in the quietest, simplest of exchanges, made him question if it was worth it. The forbidden nature of it, the thrill of breaking the rules, had its own kind of power. But that power came with a cost. Alex could see the cracks forming in their once certain future. And with every passing day, the possibility of everything falling apart grew more and more real. The next few days were strained, both between Alex and James, and in the barracks. The rumors, while still not concrete, were becoming more obvious. Alex could feel the stares of the other soldiers, the hushed conversations that seemed to die down the moment he walked into the room. He had always known that military life was full of rules and rigid structures, but this was something different, something far more personal, and far more dangerous. He tried to keep his distance from James, not out of desire but out of necessity. They had agreed to stay hidden, to keep their bond a secret. But avoiding each other only made things more difficult. Every time Alex saw James, even from across the room, it was like the world around him faded away. And when James looked at him, there was no hiding what they both knew. One afternoon, after a particularly long and brutal training session, Alex found himself alone in the gym, stretching his sore muscles. His mind was preoccupied with everything that had been happening, the whispers, the distance between him and James, the choice that still haunted him. The soft sounds of the gym's air conditioning and the occasional clank of weights were the only sounds in the room. And then, suddenly, he wasn't alone. James appeared in the doorway, looking as calm and composed as ever, though there was a hint of tension in his posture. He stepped inside, closing the door quietly behind him. The moment he entered, Alex felt a rush of emotions, a mix of desire, guilt, and fear. He quickly wiped his hands on his uniform, trying to appear unaffected, but his heart was racing. "You've been avoiding me," James said, his voice low and even, though there was an unmistakable edge to it. Alex tried to keep his tone neutral. "I've been busy, sir. Training. You know how it is." James didn't buy it. He moved closer, the air between them thickening with every step he took. "Don't lie to me, Alex. You're avoiding me on purpose. I can see it. I feel it." Alex hesitated, unsure how to respond. He wanted to tell James that he was just trying to keep things under control, to keep their secret safe. But he couldn't bring himself to say it. Instead, he just nodded, his eyes dropping to the floor. "I don't know what we're doing anymore," Alex confessed, his voice barely a whisper. "I don't know how we're supposed to keep this going. Every day it feels like it's getting harder." James stopped in front of him, his presence overwhelming. For a moment, there was only silence. Then James reached out, lifting Alex's chin with a gentle but firm touch, forcing him to meet his eyes. "We keep going because we have no other choice, Alex. This is bigger than both of us now. I've never been more certain about anything in my life. But we have to be careful. We have to stay hidden, for our own sake." Alex's breath hitched at the intensity in James's gaze. He could feel the weight of James's words pressing down on him, a pressure that threatened to crush him under its weight. But there was also something else, something undeniable, in the way James was looking at him. He wasn't just trying to protect their secret. He was trying to protect them both. "I don't want to lose you," Alex said, his voice thick with emotion. He knew it was foolish to say it, to let his feelings show so openly. But the words tumbled out before he could stop them. James's expression softened for a moment, and he stepped even closer, closing the small gap between them. "You won't lose me, Alex. Not unless you want to. But I need you to trust me. We can't keep doing this half-heartedly. We have to commit, one way or another." The room felt impossibly small now, the space between them shrinking with every word. Alex's mind raced, torn between the undeniable connection he felt with James and the knowledge that what they were doing was dangerous, not just for their careers, but for their futures. "I trust you," Alex said finally, his voice firm, despite the knot of uncertainty in his stomach. "But I don't know how long we can keep doing this." James's hand found its way to Alex's shoulder, a silent reassurance. "We take it one step at a time. One day at a time. But no matter what happens, we stay together." Alex's heart pounded in his chest. He didn't know how much longer they could keep this up, how much longer they could hide what they were becoming. But in that moment, he knew one thing for certain: he couldn't imagine his life without James in it. The danger was real. The stakes were higher than ever. But for the first time since they'd begun this forbidden journey together, Alex felt a strange sense of peace. He didn't know what the future would hold, but he knew that whatever came next, he'd face it with James by his side. And somehow, that thought made everything else seem just a little bit more bearable. But they both knew the truth: the longer they stayed hidden, the harder it would be to keep their secret. And the consequences of being caught, for both of them, were far greater than either of them could truly comprehend. The days after that moment in the gym passed in a haze. The intensity of what had happened lingered in the air between Alex and James, but there was no turning back now. They had made a choice, and the weight of it sat heavily on their shoulders. They had decided to continue down this path, even knowing the dangers that lay ahead. There was a strange comfort in that decision, but it was tempered by an undercurrent of fear, the constant fear of being discovered. Alex had never felt more alive. The stolen glances, the brief moments alone, the tension that simmered just beneath the surface of every interaction, it was intoxicating. But at the same time, it was a constant reminder of the fragile nature of what they were building. Every touch, every word, felt like a secret whispered in the dark, a fragile thread tying them together. And every time they were in public, every time they were surrounded by others, it felt like that thread could snap at any moment. It wasn't long before the inevitable happened. Alex was on patrol one afternoon when he noticed something unusual. A group of soldiers, standing off to the side, were talking quietly among themselves. He recognized a few of them, but the conversation was hushed, and as he drew closer, the words became clear enough for him to hear. His heart dropped in his chest as the pieces began to fall into place. They were talking about him. About James. About what they'd been seeing. The whispers were no longer vague. The rumors were getting louder. Did you see the way they looked at each other last night? I'm telling you, something's going on between those two. I heard it from a reliable source, another soldier chimed in. They've been spending a lot of time together. Alone. It's obvious. Alex's pulse quickened. He wanted to walk away, to pretend he hadn't heard anything, but it was already too late. The secret was out, and the weight of it was unbearable. He tried to ignore the conversation and move past the soldiers, but they were already staring at him, their eyes full of suspicion. He could feel their gaze following him, and his stomach twisted with anxiety. As he made his way back to the barracks, his thoughts raced. There was no escaping this. No hiding from it anymore. The rumors had spread, and soon, it wouldn't just be a handful of soldiers who knew. Everyone would know. His career, his future, everything he had worked for was at risk. And James's career was in just as much jeopardy. Alex found himself standing outside James's office, his heart pounding in his chest. He couldn't just go in and pretend everything was fine. Not anymore. He had to face it head on, confront the truth, and figure out what came next. He knocked on the door, the sound echoing through the hallway. It was a sound that seemed louder than usual, the finality of it hitting him like a punch to the gut. A moment later, James called out from inside, his voice steady as always, but there was a hint of something deeper beneath it, something that mirrored Alex's own anxiety. Come in. Alex pushed the door open slowly, stepping into the room. James was sitting behind his desk, just as he always did. But today, there was a tense air about him, a tightness in his posture that spoke volumes. He looked up as Alex entered, his expression unreadable. You heard the rumors, didn't you? James asked, his voice low. Alex nodded, swallowing hard. I did. They're spreading fast. Everyone's starting to talk. James leaned back in his chair, his eyes never leaving Alex's. I know. I've heard them too. It was only a matter of time before they figured it out. The silence between them grew thick, heavy with the weight of their situation. Alex wanted to say something, to reassure James, to tell him that they could handle this together. But the words wouldn't come. The truth was, neither of them knew what would happen next. What do we do now? Alex finally asked, his voice barely a whisper. James's expression softened, though the tension still lingered in his eyes. We face it. Together. We don't have a choice anymore. Alex felt a cold chill run down his spine. He knew what that meant. The consequences of being discovered would be severe, for both of them. But there was no turning back now. They had crossed the line, and the only way forward was to confront the truth. James stood up from his desk, moving toward Alex with a calm but determined presence. He placed a hand on Alex's shoulder, his grip firm and reassuring. We'll figure this out, James said, his voice steady. I won't let you face this alone. We'll take whatever comes, but we do it together. For a moment, Alex just stood there, taking in the weight of James's words. It wasn't just about the consequences anymore. It wasn't just about the rumors or the whispers. It was about the bond they shared, something deeper than either of them had fully realized until now. I trust you, Alex said, his voice thick with emotion. But I'm scared. James gave him a small, understanding smile. I know. But you're not alone in this. I've got your back. Always. Alex nodded, trying to steady his breath. The fear still gnawed at him, but there was something else now, something stronger. A sense of determination, of loyalty, that bound him to James in a way that nothing else could. They had made their choice. They had crossed a line, and there was no going back. But whatever came next, they would face it together. As Alex left James's office that day, he knew the road ahead would be difficult. The consequences would be hard to bear, and the dangers they faced were far from over. But in that moment, he felt a quiet resolve settle in his chest. He was ready to face whatever came, as long as he wasn't facing it alone. And with that, the story of Alex and James was no longer just about breaking the rules. It was about building something far more powerful, a bond that couldn't be broken, no matter the cost. The journey that Alex and James had embarked on was far from easy, and as the days passed, the weight of their decisions pressed down harder. The risks, the secrecy, the challenges, they all stood in their way. But through it all, they discovered something stronger than fear or doubt, their unwavering connection to each other. They had broken the rules, but in doing so, they found something real, something worth fighting for. Their story wasn't just about defying the odds or facing danger. It was about finding the strength to be true to themselves, even when the world told them they couldn't be. And as they stood together, ready to face whatever came next, they knew that the most important thing was that they had each other. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more emotionally charged tales like this one. Stay tuned for more stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat, exploring love, loyalty, and the lengths people will go to for each other. Thank you for watching. Until next time, take care, and remember, love is a journey, and sometimes, it's the ones who break the rules that make the most powerful impact.